Slips. Slips stands for scales, L-sits, inversions, planks, and stretching. These are really basic level gymnastics movements, simple body control and body awareness movements that we will apply to a lot of the other movements that we'll use in the broader picture of functional fitness. So first, to talk about scales, we have our front scale and our back scale. The front scale requires quite a bit of hamstring flexibility and strength in your hip flexors and your quads. So when we're working on our front scale, we want to start by putting our arms out to the side to create some counterbalance and balance from side to side. And then we're going to lift one leg up as high as we possibly can. For me, that's about right here, maybe a little short of parallel. Some people might be able to get their leg up way higher, depending on how strong their hip flexors and quads are and how flexible their hamstrings are. The goal here is to be able to hold this position with both legs super straight and good posture without falling over for a designated amount of time. You'll want to practice evenly on both sides. See if you can get one leg higher than the other. Maybe one leg is a little bit more stable on the ground, but that's the practice of the front scale. You can scale the front scale by having something to hold on to, something to help you with your balance, to keep you from falling over. Maybe you have a wall to the side or both sides, just something to keep you from wobbling and losing your balance. It's better to practice a light tap as opposed to holding on permanently, because you'd want to work on challenging yourself to be without any assistance. Our back scale is going to start again with the arms out. You're going to lift one foot off the floor, and you're going to keep a straight line between your shoulders to your heel and come forward until you are parallel to the ground. You want to be in a nice straight line here. Ideally, you get your back leg up even higher and both legs are super straight. For some people, your standing leg hamstring flexibility might not allow you to come that far down. So as long as we're keeping a straight line from our shoulders to our heel, we might only come halfway or even partial way down. Again, you can have an assistance by having something to tap your hand against to help you maintain your balance. Keeping those arms out to the side is going to engage your scapulas and get you in a nice upright and straight position. We want to practice back scales on both legs as well, evenly testing your flexibility and your strength in this nice airplane position, making sure your shoulders and your hips are facing straight down. We're not turning over to the side in our back scale. The next movement that we have is our Elson. There's a lot of different ways to practice your Elson. You can practice on the floor, you can practice on a box, you can practice on rings, you can practice on parallettes, you can even practice hanging. L-sits are a pretty basic gymnastics movement that most of us do not have good mastery of. One way to practice is to get out chairs of matching height or boxes of matching height, and we're going to put our hands on the boxes or the items. From there, we're going to come into either a tuck or an L position. The L position, you want to have your legs out as straight as possible, and you want to press your shoulders away from your ears. So we're trying to avoid being in a hunched over position. We want to press up, have nice posture, and then get the legs out. This is a really, really difficult core contraction movement for the general public. For most gymnasts, this is super basic and one of the first things that most gymnasts master. One of the most difficult ways you can practice this at home is by having 2 chairs or 2 stools or 2 items of equal height to practice on. A way to scale this down is to go to a tuck position and bring one leg out at a time. You can scale further by going to the floor. And we can practice our L-sit on the floor. We're going to try to get our hands as far away from our body as possible to make it harder. From here, we can practice with lifting one leg at a time, or lifting both legs at a time, or even doing a tuck position with our knees bent. We can make this even easier by creating some back support. By having back support, you're going to engage your core a little less because you're pressing against the wall. And you lift one leg or both legs at the same time again. Another way to scale this is to go onto a single box or elevated surface and sit on that item and practice lifting our legs from below parallel to above parallel. If you can hold here above, that's a good start as well. Lets you lean back even farther. All of these can be scaled into a tuck or single leg lift at a time. Work on challenging yourself with the hardest version of the L-sit that you can do. The I in slips stands for inversions. The most difficult form of inversion that we're going to look at that I can't demonstrate is a press to handstand. That would be a press to freestanding handstand where you would magically lift your legs up into the air without jumping and get into a full freestanding handstand. If that's not possible, another way to practice is to kick up into a supported handstand and practice slowly lowering our legs under control down to the ground. That is for people who have already mastered already mastered a handstand with support against the wall, and you're working on that slow, controlled, eccentric motion so that you can then apply that back towards lifting up back into the handstand at some point once you get more control. If kicking into a handstand facing away from the wall is beyond your ability level, we can practice our inversions with a wall walk by walking our feet up to the wall, trying to get our nose all the way to the wall and maintaining an inverted position here, and then walking our hands back down and away from the wall. Another way to practice inversions is to practice our headstand. We'll make a tripod position between our head and our hands. We've got a triangle going, and then we'll put our knees on top of our elbows and then lift one foot, both feet, maybe get our feet all the way up and into a full supported headstand. If starting here is where we need to start, that's an option, and we can practice with our knees supported on top of our elbows. We can also practice a plank inversion, or a piked inversion, excuse me. We put our feet on top of a box or a bed or a chair. And so that you can hear me, let me tuck this in. And our goal here is to create a vertical shoulder to hip position. So we want to walk our hands back as close as we can to the box to get our body as vertical and stacked upside down as possible. Practicing these inversions is super important for your overhead stability when you're standing up. And another way to practice for the inversions is to work on overhead stability with a weight. So we can practice overhead holds with one arm, both arms, in a seated, standing, kneeling position. The stacked position of our wrist over elbow, elbow over shoulder, shoulder over hip, that when we flip ourselves upside down, we're finding that same stack position while we're inverted. The P in slips stands for planks. Planks are a really good core strengthening movement that's at the root of our handstand, it's at the root of our push-up, it's at the root of our burpee, it's at the root of a lot of movements. We want to find a really nice, hollow, stable body under a lot of control that we can sustain for a long time. To start, the most advanced version of a plank would be a one arm, one leg plank, where we're able to hold the opposite hand and the opposite foot off the ground at the same time while keeping our shoulders and hips square to the ground. If doing both the arm and the leg elevated at the same time is beyond our ability level, we can do a single arm plank where we pull one arm back and hold it at our side, again making sure to correct and keep your hips pointed straight down. We can do a single leg plank where we elevate one foot at a time and challenge our core that way. We can also do our plank from our knees to start if we're still working on that elementary control. We can also do planks from our elbows. Anything that we do to create a shorter lever of our body is making it more attainable. The hollow body that we're achieving in our plank is super important. We don't want to be up in a piked position when we're practicing planks, And we don't want to be losing our perfect spinal positioning by dropping our hips down. We want to be in a nice hollow body where we're pressing through the floor with all 5 fingers. Our shoulders are activated, our glutes are squeezing together, and we're in a nice, solid, foundational position. The final S in slips stands for stretching. There are a million different stretches that you can do to help lengthen your muscles and release a lot of tension from tightness and to increase your mobility and your range of motion. You can literally think of almost any yoga pose. You can think of any gymnastics positioning that gets you out of your normal standing, slumped over your computer, to open up your body and to increase your range of motion. One stretch that's super popular in our space is to do a lunge with an overhead reach. This is targeting not only your shoulders and your armpits, but also your hip of your back leg. You're getting some compression stretch of the front thigh. You can turn this into a quad stretch in the back leg. You're also getting your psoas as you reach up to the ceiling. It's pretty much a full body stretch. Another really good one that you can do is a little bit of the down dog into up dog. Alternating between these 2 stretches opens the shoulders, also stretches the backs of the legs. Up dog stretches the front of the body from the chest all the way through the abdomen and the psoas as well. It's another really effective stretch to hit a lot of body parts at once. With stretching, you're free to make up whatever stretches are most necessary for you. Look at the other elements of the slips that we did and see where you were deficient, see where things were difficult for you. If you have issues with hamstring flexibility, make sure that you're targeting your hamstrings by getting forward fold stretches, seated forward fold stretches, single leg forward fold stretches, straddle stretches. There's a lot of different ways that you can target different areas of your body. If you need ideas, you can use the Google and Google how to stretch my XYZ, and you will find a lot of options out there. In summary, doing the slips exercises is a really good way to gain very basic body control, become a master of your own body weight, and really elemental gymnastic movements. If you do the slips in a timely format, you can get through a lot of work in as little as 20 minutes, as long as you're remembering to keep the quality of your movements high and to make sure you're hitting positions with great form.